Greetings everyone, this is Zola back for day 2, I think it is. Yeah, I'm already getting lost with the dates. And today we're going to be covering how to get things onto the canvas. So whether those be pictures, whether it's creating content, how to manage them, the different ways you can bring them in. And then we're just going to start having a look at the layers panel, although this is going to be split probably into like 1 or 2 days because there's a lot to get through on there. As a quick note, if we hit our favorite shortcut Control-Alt-C here, we'll see the canvas is 1920 by 1080 pixels, and as you can see when I pressed it, pixels came up as my default unit of measurement, which is really useful. So if you go to Edit Preferences, and I believe it's units and rulers, yeah, by default that is centimeters, so change that to pixels, because if not, every time you come in here this will by default be at centimeters, and then you're always, it's a small thing, but you'll be changing it to pixels. It's just nice to have the program have pixels as your like default way of interpreting the size of your canvas. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a square. Now don't worry so much about why or how, just know that this is a square, and instantly up here we have a layer that says rectangle, and as you can see we've got a little eye, so if we poke that we can make it invisible, and then press it again and it brings it back. If you have to have the layer selected, you come up to here, you have the move tool. If you just press V on your keyboard, that's the shortcut to kind of get this up. So if I press V, really useful to know that one. And if I right click here and duplicate this layer, and what I'm going to do is just change the color of this. We now have 2 layers, and both exact replicas, one's different color. If I go up here and drag one beneath the other, you'll see that it changes the order in which we are viewing things. And the easiest way to think about this is like almost like a stack of paper. So if we had 2 pieces of paper on top of each other, the orange would be on top of the green, which is what we're seeing here. If you bring the green one above, you would have that. So just so you guys know, that's how this kind of works. It's really simple. If we come up here, we have the opacity. So if we select any layer, let's select the orange one, the opacity, we can bring this down, and as you can see what it will do is make the layer more and more transparent, and that is useful to know. And then here we have blending modes, but I will explain those at a later date. So that's that. And if you have the fill is we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves here, but I think I'll show you anyway. Fill is if you have a shape layer which has a stroke and a fill. Don't worry so much, you can basically knock out the opacity of the middle without changing the opacity of the stroke on the outside. So again, I'll explain that later on. So okay, so we've just created some new content. If I create a text layer, and just delete that, sorry. So if I come over to this T, we can create text. So I'm just going to click, type hello, as I always do because I'm a friendly chap. Bring that in, and we're going to put this here. So now we have 3 layers, three layers, yeah, and we have 2 types of content. We've got a text layer and we've got a shape layer. If I go to File and Open, and I'm going to go to, let's just open this. Okay, so this is literally like a yellow JPEG. That's all it is. If you look at the background, it's I can type something on it. I can write like hi, smiley face. I don't know if that's a wink or whether he's having a seizure, but point being, if I you know, this is my picture, and if I want to bring this file into my other file, what I can do is just detach this little window and literally drag it in like that. And so that's one way of bringing a picture in, so you can open them. But as you can see, that's quite a silly way to do this. It's a bit slow, it's a bit unintuitive. Best way to bring something in is you go to File and you can go to Place. Now as you can see, there's 2 place, and these are like features which have been added. I'm gonna have to pause this. I'll be back in a second. And we're back. Sorry about that. I had a phone call. Clients, you know how it is. Maybe you don't. Maybe you will soon because we're teaching you stuff. Maybe. Okay, I can't even remember what I was talking about. I think I was just showing you like how to bring in layers. And so the two ways we can bring layers in are place embed and place linked. Now, place embed is like what Photoshop used to do in the old school way. And so if I bring this JPEG in, you can position it where you want. You can scale it how you want. And then when you hit enter on your keyboard, it commits it to your document, right? What Photoshop does in terms of this is it's basically, oh, excuse me, I have the hiccups. It's basically dumping it in your document and saying this is now in here. When you save your file, all this is going to be saved, and makes your document a hell of a lot bigger. Obviously, this is a really simple JPEG, so it's not. But if you have a look when I delete it, you see we lost like 8 megabytes of information. This is like how big your document is, right? So if I go to File, Place Embed, bring it in, hit Enter, as like scale it down or whatever. That is, yeah, it's made the size of the document jump up to 8.5 meg, and we delete it, it's back to 1. Now, if I go to Place Linked and bring it in, and scale this down, this is actually a more powerful way to bring an object in. And the reason why is if you look up here, you have a little padlock, right? Now, what happens is if I go and save over this JPEG, so this is the JPEG, and I'm going to hit yes and OK. As you can see, I've changed the JPEG because we drew this excellent picture on here. Now if I go in here, the JPEG has magically updated, which is pretty damn cool. You know, I could, just to do that again, I could change like almost the hue of this. Again, save it, come into here, and it's changed the color. So that's the magic of dynamic linking. So I would recommend like using that as well. If you're going to be updating an element over and over. So you can almost like, say you have something, you can almost put a circle and say, I know I'm going to come back and make that cooler, but for now I'll just put a circle. And it's kind of like nesting, pre-comping in After Effects, I guess. So it's kind of worth getting used to. So that's it. Those are the main ways to bring stuff in. You can also, if we come in here, just drag something in, hit enter. That's the other way. So you can literally drag stuff off your desktop. But that will create, that's the equivalent of doing a file place embed. So if I overwrite this now, so I'm going to change this color and save it. If I come in, can you see only the linked one is going to update. This one was the equivalent of place embed, and that's just now in the document. It's not going to keep looking at the JPEG on your hard drive and seeing if it's changed or not. So those are the two ways you can bring stuff in, and so you can see how one might be more useful than the other in certain circumstances. Now, last but not least, I'm going to explain a quick thing. So as I said earlier, the little eye allows you to hide and show layers. Now, you can also like click and drag, right? So you can do that. And what I'm going to do is show you one thing, which is if you alt click on any layer, it will show you just that layer and hide everything else in your comp. And this is super useful. It's almost like soloing this layer. And make sure you always click on the same eye afterwards to bring everything back, or else it's going to forget which layers were on and off, and then you're going to have to turn everything on manually, which is a pain. So can you see if I alt click on that, it's going to hide everything else and just show me that. And I believe you can do it with like 2 layers as well. So if you no, you can't see. So there you go. But that is, it's one of the most useful tips I found out. And again, this is like only recently, and I've been using the program for a long time. It's just really useful for just saying, oh, I just want to work on this, and you know, I just want to, you know, I just want to play with the strokes for this. Oh, go back to my baby. But yeah, basically, long story short is you can just bring one layer to the front and work on it by itself, and that's really powerful. If you want to delete lock a layer, you can hit that. What this does is it means that even though I've got my move tool selected, it says could not move because the layer is locked. and that means that if there, if there's something in here you're happy with and you don't want to change it, and you're like, oh, I might like this little section here is cool and I don't want to move it by accident, just lock your layers, and then you can always like unlock them that way. And yeah, I mean that's the last thing. The only other thing I'm going to show you now is the filters, right? So the filters up here are if this is off like this, turn it on. By default the filter will be on kind, right? And what this lets you do is lets you solo just those types of layers in your comp. Now at the moment I've got a text layer, I've got I've got a smart object, which is like that little kind of I don't know, it's like a folded page with a cube on a cube, and then we've got 2 shape layers as well. So if I go to smart objects and hit that, it's going to show me my 2 smart objects, right, which are these 2. And you can turn this on and off dynamically just by pressing that, which is really useful. If I want to see all my shape layers, and if you hover over something it'll tell you, so it says filter for shape layers. So what this is going to do is just shows all the shape layers in here. Now notice it's not hiding them in here, it's just showing them in the panel. This only affects what's going on in here. So just because we've only got 2 layers here doesn't mean that we can't see everything else in here. So that's just a quick thing to note. This will show us all our text layers and this adjustment and pixel, but we don't have any of those in here, so there's no point. And then you also have, if you have layers with like blending mode, so I'm going to change these to screen. As you can see, stuff's happened here, don't worry about that, I will show you that in the later date. You can like shift by blending mode, so like these are the ones with the normal blending mode. If we go to screen, these are all the layers with the screen blending mode. So basically this is like a really clever way of like, especially when you tend to work on something and you have like hundreds of layers in here and you're like, oh, I really need to access only this kind of layer. Like using this is a good way to kind of cut the clutter down in here and quickly find the layer you're looking for. Select it, work on it, and then you can turn this on and off, and then go back to working on whatever else. So that's going to do it for part 1 of the layers panel. Tomorrow we're going to have a look at like groups and making like empty new layers, which I've just done there, which you can then like paint in and stuff, and then obviously we can move those around. Move tool, yeah. So I'll explain all this, and then adjustment layers, masks and stuff. We will get all onto that stuff in the next coming days, because there is quite a lot of, literally like deceptively a lot of power in just the canvas in here. If you can master this menu here on the left, the canvas and just the layers, then you have like Photoshop down pretty much 50%, and the rest is actually just icing on the cake. So I am going to take a lot of time with these, but you'll see by the end of it that there is actually most of the program is just in these like 4 menus. So once you get like those down, it's going to be really, really like, you'll find that you can do most of the things that you want to do in Photoshop. So thanks for watching, guys. As again, I've tried to keep this short, like just 12 minutes. I know some of these tutorials might not seem like they're doing a lot, but I think you'll find that by teaching this way, there's nothing worse than watching a tutorial and me throwing like 50 things at you, and then you like by day 3 you've forgotten like 10 of them or like most of them. By doing like little things every day, and then like what you can do is go into Photoshop one day and be like, oh, I'm going to practice like getting to use with the layers panel, and because you learned about the canvas yesterday, you know how to like make a new document, and then because with what we've added today, you know how to bring things in. And so you'll find that like maybe in 2 weeks already you'll be like, oh crap, I've actually learned quite a lot about the basics of Photoshop. So those are the goals. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow.